Welcome to this week's episode. And today I'm joined by one of my favouriteest people in the world. This is my esteemed colleague, Kathleen Sinclair. And Kathleen is based over in the US. And I've known Kathleen since 2020 when we took a Flow for Writers writing course together, unbeknownst to each other
Mm,
at that point in
mm.
time. And it was really an interesting space because we did this with Stephen Kotler in real time, using technology in lockdown to do what normally took place in the real world. So Kathleen has also gone on to write a book, which we're going to discuss today. And I don't know whether you want to say the title of it, Kathleen, or I do, because it's an amazing book. And really, I think what we're going to talk about today is wisdom and aging, and the fact that you are never too old to use technology, never too old to do things like write your first book and share your knowledge with the world. So, welcome, Kathleen.
Oh, thank you so much, dear. Thank you. And thank you for that great introduction. I have really benefited from our friendship also, and I do appreciate all of the things that you said.
Mhm.
And the wisdom thing, that do you know that that's such an interesting word because we use it in a I was using it when we were talking before about older people, older in certain cultures in the United States, the Native Americans, they always respected their elders and they thought of the elders as giving them wisdom for the future and so on. And it just seems that I mean, I've been on this journey since I was 60 to challenge aging and to disrupt aging and to
Mhm.
look at it like, what the hell's going on here? I mean, why is it when you have all of your skills and your experience that all of a sudden you're a non-person, that you're
Yep.
thrown in this retirement pool and you go, what the hell? I just lived this life, I've done all this, and now what? So that's where I started my journey. I'm 79 now, and I started my journey when I was 60.
Mm.
And so
Mhm.
over the years, I've talked to thousands of people about this, and that's why I ended up writing the book. And for a little diversion, the name of the book is called Fuck Aging. And I don't mean it in a negative way, but I mean,
Yep.
in a way, what you have to do is you have to be willing to say, well, fuck aging and get on with your life.
Yeah.
You say it in a way like, let's get this out of the way. Everyone ages. The minute you're born, you start aging, so why all of a sudden, at a certain point in time, is it a negative thing?
Mm.
I mean, some kid, when you say, are you three? No, I'm three and a half. I mean, they want to move it up, they want to move it up. But then all of a sudden it's bad. So my thing is, when I started questioning it, it
Yeah.
it came from a time uh when I was 25. My dad died, and he was not a particularly wonderful person, but I was given the task of going to the hospital and picking up his things. And he was very critical all through my life, and abusive, and not really a fun person to be around. But so I went to the hospital and I said, my dad died. I need to pick up his things. And so this lady came down with a brown paper bag, like a grocery
Yeah.
bag. And I thought, holy shit, this is my dad. This paper bag is my dad. And
Yeah.
there wasn't
Yeah.
anything he had contributed to society. And I thought, that's not going to happen. I refuse to let that happen to me. But then time went on and everything. And then, when I was 60, all of a sudden this voice in my head said, okay, honey, now what are you doing? What are you
Yeah.
doing with your life? You're 60 already. So that's when my journey started. And when I really started to look at and examine who we are in society when we get older,
Mhm.
and what can we do to shift what society thinks about older people, and the word retirement. And like in Japan, the word retirement isn't in their vocabulary. It's
Yeah.
it's something, we made
Mhm.
that up. And so that's kind of the things we're dealing with now. Sorry, I
So
got off on that
no, no, no,
tangent
no, no,
there.
no, no. This is fantastic because let's. Oh my goodness, I went off on, yep, that's the longevity thing. Yep, that's where people can sell supplements. Yep. And you're absolutely right in terms of if we think about this as an episode about wisdom and aging, your book is called obviously, fuck aging, but the subtitle is Live a Kick-Ass Second Half.
Yeah.
So what age would we where do we pinpoint this second half? Because what we're gonna try and do today is have that kind of conversation that we've had over many, many weeks in terms of how do you disrupt this idea of what is old, what is aging? Is it all about your exterior and your skin and your collagen, i.e., what people can sell you as supplements, or like the biohacker Brian, oh, I've forgotten his surname now, who's taken his son's stem cells, in a bid to fight a natural process. What is it that we're so frightened of? What age? That's about 40 different questions there, Kathleen. Sorry, this is just us. We're going to ramble as we normally do. What age do we start this second half of our life then? Because you said you started at 60. And I'm thinking most people will put it at 50, and particularly for women, it's gonna be that menopause dot, full stop.
Yeah. Well, I think 60 for me, I will tell you why, because I didn't adopt my kids until I was in my 40s. So in my 50s, I absolutely agree with you.
Mm,
My kids were still young when I started the menopause in the 50s. So I do think it starts in the 50s. And what it is now I can't speak for a man, but for a woman, they society, advertising, clothing, they start talking to you in a different way, like, oh,
mm,
you need to
mm.
keep your skin youthful and you need to do this and don't wear those styles that make you look old, and you have to have your hair a certain way, otherwise that makes you look old. And so there is this stigma against it, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just western cultures that fear getting older, because we do have the bloody cycle of life. We're going to be
Yep.
here and then we're not going to be
Y
here. For
yeah.
Christ's sake, we're not going to live forever. So I think it's a that's why I think that it's so important to have a roadmap for the second half of your life, as you
Yeah.
can lay it out and say, wait, I have all of this ahead of me. This is all the things I can do. I already know a lot. I've been through having the kids, buying the house, going to the university, whatever it is society told me to do. Now it's my time. Now I can do this.
Mhm.
Whereas, but that is has to be a shift in
Yeah.
society, because right now we think of older people as a drain on society, as a pulling down, with so much healthcare costs and so much of this going on and housing and so on. So we need to do a some kind of a realization that no, this is a human resource that is absolutely fantastic. So I don't know, I can't remember the figure how many people will be over 60 at a certain time, but it is a large number of
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
And so if you look at it as a gigantic human resource rather than something negative, I think that we can start to see that there's a possibility there to glean this experience and the skills from that age group, but something has to be set up to do it. Because what I was talking to you about before is right now there might be people in India or China or Russia, the United States, Canada, England, wherever, New Zealand. How do they get together? How do they communicate with each other? How do they combine their skills in a way that benefits the whole world,
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
I see it. I see that age group as having the ability to tackle and solve all the major world problems right now. But it is a matter of getting those people together. And so and the reason I wrote the book was to wake people up to who they really are, who
Yeah.
they can be, what it is, and to spark something inside people of that age group. So I'm just going to say over 50, that the beginning is just beginning, that I don't have anything to worry about here, because there is so much more in my life that's going to happen that's wonderful, that I'm looking forward to it rather than I'm not looking forward to it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's what I was hoping would happen with the book. It's not easy. It's not easy to change, though. Even minor changes in our life, whether it's diet, health, takes a long time. So I
Oh,
think I was
no. Oh,
asking
no,
a
you mean
lot of
there's
people in the book,
you mean
you
there's no
know,
quick hack?
no quick hack. So I don't care who it is that's telling you that. There's no quick hack. And it's I do read a lot about how women reach a certain age where I don't care what you think. That's great. And but not enough people do that because we can't go about caring what other people think about how we look. If we have wrinkles, I have lots of wrinkles. If we have if things sag, this is just the body. I'm not my arm. I'm not my face.
Yeah,
I am a
yeah.
human being inside. I am this essence of intelligence and so on. That's what I want us to focus on. And so I think we were talking about um, how I would like to reach people. Well, I'd love to speak to groups of people about this because I do think there's an energy in a room when you have a group of like-minded people
Mhm.
that's electric and it really sparks things and makes things happen that don't happen when you're just sitting by yourself having a cup of coffee. And so it's that's why I'd love to do the speaking gigs that we talked about, but also just having whether it's a Facebook group or some way that like-minded people can talk. And I think we talked before about um, I've never been a part of a think tank, but it's almost like there need to be certain think tanks around the world where people can share their experience and be
Mm,
given a problem and solve the problem and so on. So that's kind of where I am. And you talked about technology. Holy shit. Technology is the thing that's going to tie it all together
absolutely.
because that's a way we can communicate with each other without being in the same room. Like you're in England and I'm in the United States. So, and I love technology. I'm not exactly sure why people are fearful of it. If it's the language, if it's the machinery,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that where or if they've listened to, "Well, you're old, you don't get it," or "You wouldn't understand that," or, "It's okay, I'll do it because you're old."
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but,
Well, it's the title that you get because and I'm not sure, I think I've talked about this in the book, the derogatory language that's used about people over 50 who use
yeah.
technology, and that age group is referred to as the silver surfers, in air quotes, which is
Yes.
incredibly, dismissive. It's very derogatory in terms of not everybody goes grey, some people go white, some people keep their hair dyed. I will
Yeah.
probably be one of those. I mean, I've got blue hair, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's it's really hard because and I say that because the way that we were talking and the way we've talked over many years now is the way that people are seen by the community in terms of, oh, you're useless after the age of 50 or 60. I mean, it's not helped by presidential bumbling um
Yes.
outbursts and incoherent speech when he's on a stage, and people go, well, that's Alzheimer's, that's what you get when you're old, and there's all these diseases that you can only get after the age of 50, even though that's not necessarily true. But the way that the perception is that the older generation are useless, past it, no longer worthwhile. And yet I think what you alluded to earlier was the Eastern traditions see that as wisdom. And one of our esteemed colleagues in this space as well, Jamie Wheel, talks about the grandmother hypothesis, the need for women to no longer be of childbearing age, but to bring that wisdom into the tribe and
Mhm.
support and look after those who are now of child bearing and child rearing spaces and ages, and to support the younger generation. So there's this thing about why are we so quick to throw people on the trash pile in the West? Why d
I think, it's a good question, and, um, I try well, one of the things that I've recognized, and I'm probably way out of bounds here, is that, um a lot of men in the United States seem to be fearful of really smart, intelligent, active women.
Mm,
And so a lot of it first it starts with women, like with the skincare and the hair and the body shape. And that the men, want to have this younger woman, and that older women are not so appealing physically and so on. So I think sometimes it has to do with an ego thing,
Mhm.
and it's sometimes it has to do with um, um, just a competition, like in the workforce. Like those old guys need to get out so that we young people can come in.
Yeah.
Sometimes it has to do with, particularly in the workforce, younger people often are willing to work for less, and older people want more. So there's kind of a willingness to get rid of the
Yeah.
older people. And um but there is some sense to it. For example, I think I talked to you about this before. Pilots, at least in the United States, and airlines, they have to retire when they're 60. They retire,
Yeah.
and they've got a lot of people, they're responsible for a lot of people, planes full of people, and so on. They retire when they're 60. You don't particularly want a heart surgeon that's beyond the age
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
he has all of his faculties working on your heart. So there are certain occupations where I think that examining the age of doing it is okay. It's okay because for the safety of others and so on. Does that
Yeah.
mean they
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
they shouldn't does that mean that they're stupid and need to go into some retirement home? No. What that means is they no longer do that job, but maybe they teach, maybe they mentor,
Absolutely.
maybe they do, maybe they write manuals, books, so on. And so it's just a shift of what they do. So they don't do this. Maybe they, yeah, physically I can't. Marathons. I probably could, but I don't want to. But it doesn't mean that I can't talk to other people about running, or that I can't run 5 miles, or that, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that it's an acknowledgement of your body and your age and what you can do, and it doesn't mean let's stop there and cut you off. So, but why we do that, I think it has crept up on us because right now we're living, everything's going at a quantum rate into the future, particularly
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
technology.
yeah.
And even a short time ago, 100 years ago, we didn't live that long. We didn't live that long.
Nope.
40s, 50s, you know? And so now we're living longer, and I don't think we've caught up with the fact that let's use this age. Let's do this. We've looked at it in a negative way. We haven't really this is a, like I said before, a great human resource. So we're a little bit behind in in our thinking of what's possible physically. And it I don't know if it's that, but it's also a um well, in the United, I can only speak for the United States. If you look at boards of directors, if you look at the Senate and the legislature and other areas, it's a lot of old white men,
Mhm.
and they do not want to give up that power. They do not want to. Um, uh, they don't. Mm, they don't want to acknowledge that maybe they need to step aside and, like I said, be a mentor rather than running things. And so it it's going to take a long time to shift how we feel about aging, but I don't think there's any better time than right now to start it.
Yeah. So I was thinking a minute ago in terms of and this kind of fits your business pattern, and we've talked about this many times in terms of I have a title in terms of being a human behavior technologist, which to
Right.
most people doesn't mean a lot. But when I say I'm a child and adult trauma psychotherapist, that's my role in terms of that's what I do. And therapist usually denotes a longer term relationship with somebody, helping them through their issues or life moments. But there's this thing about what you do is usually referred to as coaching, but actually this is where you've said the language of coach doesn't suit who you are as a business person, because actually that's more suited to somebody doing sports and maybe somebody suited to doing things when they're younger, perhaps. So you opt for the word guide. Do you want to kind of say a little bit about that? Because I think it's wonderful how you've thought about the language that describes who you are.
It is, there thank you very much for that. Yes, I'd love to talk about it. It has been a little bit of a conundrum for me to figure out exactly where I because you're right, people want a title. They want to title you, so that's how they identify with you.
Mhm, mhm.
That's just fine. Yes, I'm a mother. Yes, I'm a sister. Yes, I'm a friend. And what else? I'm a speaker and an author, so on. So in talking with people, because I chose the word guide, because I feel that the age group I'm mainly concerned with already have a shit ton of skills
Yeah,
and
yeah.
experience and knowledge that I for one will never have, but they are so smart about what they're doing and what they've done in the past, and many of them are very modest about it and so on,
Mm,
but that they don't need coaching. They could coach me. They don't need coaching, but they need someone to point them in the right direction. And
yeah.
I talk about, where they create a roadmap for their life. I could guide them in, well, maybe you go down this way. And then when you do is you do this, and then you take this road and then that road. And along the way, you're doing certain things. So that's why I'm figuring that I like the word guide better because
Mhm.
it's um you're working with people. It's not like coaching, like I'm telling you what to do, and then first of all you do 20 push-ups, and then you'll do, you know, um, 16 jumping jacks. No, it's like we're working together. And the reason I say guide is because I am of this same age group,
Mhm.
and I have done certain things and gained a certain knowledge and explored this and written about it and researched it. So I feel I'm in a position to maybe bring people along with me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's why I'm thinking that guide is a word I like. So if I'm going to be speaking to a room full of people, these people are my peers. These people are you know, my heroes. And so
Mhm.
I would like just to bring them along with me rather than me standing up there telling somebody what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's I mean, that's really, really clear in your book where you've got the chapters on, and actually I think time might be one that we can cover in a minute, but certainly where you talk about motivation and grit, you're you're referring back to the big speakers and like you've just said, you've researched it. Well, that's been part of our training, so to speak, because both of us have been through similar routes in the spaces and the people that we've been to and learned from, which have included kind of the flow spaces and the people within those spaces, which has also included people like SBK and the way that he's then used research from Angela Duckworth, for example, for grit and right. So
Right.
this roadmap, because you've talked about roadmap and you've used that word a couple of times now. So if people are, well, whether they're listening or watching, what is it that you mean by a roadmap and why is that so important? And I'm thinking about the chapter on what's time, I think you call it what's time got to do with it, in terms of how do you get from A to B, when you said right at the beginning of even our chat was making changes is difficult.
Well, I think that it just goes right back to when you're a kid. You have to put one step in front of the other. So what you
Mhm.
have to do though, what I really encourage people to do is look at where they are right now. Where you are right now. How do you spend your time? How do you want to spend your time? What are your relationships like? What's your relationship with work, with money, with your family, with
Mm.
religion, with the natural world, with yourself? And so it takes some time, and it takes, maybe for me, I physically write, and that is a way that I have notebooks that I write down things. So sometimes it takes a quiet space of you saying, I want to work on this. And it's an exploration of who you are.
Yeah.
And many times, particularly women, are not given that kind of time. They're very, very busy. They got a lot of demands on them. Even when they're older, there's a lot of demands. But you need to realize that you are a really important person in the world, and that you deserve to take the time to figure out how you're going to roadmap the rest of your life. So it starts with tiny steps. It starts with examining what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
What are you doing right now? What is your time like? What are your days like? What are your weeks like? And do you want to keep it that way? Do you want to shift it somehow? Do you want more time with family? Do you want more time in your garden? What is it that and you have to ask yourself that. We all have the same amount of time in a day. And so, even write out your perfect day. My perfect day starts at 6:30 in the morning. I walk for 30 minutes, then have coffee in the garden, whatever the hell it is. Whatever it is. And
Mhm.
so you start by talking to yourself, examining yourself, looking at how you spend your time, and then you branch out. How do I want it to be? And so you look at what it is now, how you want it to be, what you have to do to get there from point
Mhm.
A to
Mhm.
B. And it doesn't just happen overnight. And one of the things that we've done in our studies together is you always are not pushing yourself. That's not the right word, but if you can do 2% more of something every week, there are 52 weeks in the year. Just think of the improvement you
Perfect.
can make,
Yeah.
whether it is an exercise program, whether it is learning a language, whether it is working on your tech skills, whatever that is. You just look at the increments as 2%. And 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 then also I wanted to bring up a chick set me high, Mihai Chick set me high, who wrote about flow first, talks about when you're trying something new, there's a sweet spot where if it's too much, if it's too difficult, you get frustrated and won't do it.
Yeah.
But if it's not a challenge enough, then you get bored and you give it up. So you have to find what it is that works for you. For me, about 2 to 5, sometimes 10% increases in what I'm doing, the skill level I'm working for, particularly in tech, works to keep me motivated without being frustrated. And
Mhm.
yeah, I
Mhm.
do get frustrated sometimes. I have to walk away. I have to call tech support. I have to look up something. I have to figure out how to do something, but I'm still moving forward. And so we we as people who want to leave a legacy, we as people who want to make the world a better place to live, need to be patient with ourselves, love ourselves, and realize that yes, we can do these things. And we can find the answers to everything
Yeah.
nowadays. I
Yep.
mean, the answers are out there.
Well,
So that's kind of,
certainly,
yeah.
yeah, certainly. That's one of those things I would love to just clip and send people in terms of be patient with yourselves, love yourselves, and for me, there's something about imagine if you impart that knowledge that you were talking about that people over the age of 50 and 60 and 70 have collated and collected and have internalized that they could share with people. That
Mhm.
teaching, mentoring, I'm thinking actually the way that you talked about the whole process, Kathleen, sounds like what we do in therapy anyway. Where are you now and where do you want to be? And
Mhm.
even just to throw a psychologist's name out there in terms of Carl Rogers, he talked about that gap between the real self where you are and the ideal self where you want to be and where you're aiming for. He talked about that distance between those is called incongruence. And what we're
Mhm.
trying to do is make that distance less. And we get there by that beautiful tiny amount of a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
So that it's not
And it
rushed,
adds
isn't it?
up,
Mhm.
right? And so it just I used to run marathons, and when maybe I would run 3 miles a day. Well, then when you want to run 26 miles, and I don't know what that is in kilometers, but anyway, you have to figure out how are you going to do it? How many months do you have to do it? And you break it down. And that's the same thing with everything. You break it down into bits that you can do and can understand.
Yeah.
If something seems too overwhelming, break it down. And I mean, we learned that from Stephen Kotler also,
Well, that's the
but
SMART
it's
goals, isn't
just,
it? Yeah, make
yeah,
your goals smart and achievable and really, really make them small chunks rather than a I mean,
right.
just to quote that, that's if you're going for your MTP at the end of it, what you need to do is break it down. And also when you were talking earlier about what is it that I want to do? What is my perfect day? That also taps into that passion recipe that he's got as well.
Yes, yes, it does.
Mm.
And I think some people have actually lost track of that.
Yeah.
They haven't asked themselves those questions, and it's been either knocked out of them, or they're worn out, or they're
Mm.
tired, or
Mm.
something. But I think that oh, and one other thing you mentioned, it's the language we use. So if you reach a certain age and you know, someone calls you old, or you're an old codger or whatever, fine, that's fine, but it's what you say to yourself. Like, somebody will say, "Oh, gee, my legs hurt." Well,
Yeah.
or my back hurts, or it's hard for me to get I'm sorry, that can happen to you when you're 30. So you
Yeah.
just say, "Okay, what am I gonna do about it?" But so you don't buy into that language, and not always, but if you can, correct those people around you. I really appreciate you saying that. However, it's just a number, or well, just correct people,
Mm.
and in a polite way, and but mostly correct yourself. Just correct yourself. And it's a um and I also think you need to surround yourself with the like-minded people. I mean, this is true no matter what you are, is that
Yeah.
people can bring you down. And if you have a bunch of older friends who are negative and critical, just kind of exit from them. Gradually pull yourself
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
and find yourself surrounded by people who are more like-minded. And I love the co-generational thing. I don't think I'd ever live in a community of just older people. I really like younger people and middle-aged people. I like all ages of people working together.
Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
really there's Chip Connolly is a guy now that promotes that a lot, of the co-generational thing. And one of the things that he wants people to do is have dinners together, where you invite people of different ages, and you discuss different
Yeah.
things, and
Yeah.
you see the different points of view. And it's quite revealing. And I have a really good relationship with my grandson, who is trans, and he's 16. And so when I run something by him, it kind of shocks me sometimes how he sees it.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that, because it teaches me a lot about other people and so on. And my daughter's in her 30s, so there's her, she's 37. So it's these different generations, even
Mm.
close in the house here, living together. So it's fun to see.
Well, it's
Yeah.
it's the true meaning, and I'm gonna use it's the true meaning of the tribe or the village or,
Hmm.
your the people that you are surrounded by, but also this is why I really like the term allo parenting for so this is a term that a lady called Sarah Blaffer Hurdy discussed a long time ago. And what she talked about is that generational difference and how many different ages look after the children of the village. And that
Hmm.
she refers to as allo parenting, which is, when the biological mother might be busy with one of the other children, it might be a grandmother or an auntie or a very close friend. I mean, I remember certainly the language in England in the 70s was neighbours were called auntie and uncle,
Yeah.
and you didn't refer to the next door neighbour, it was uncle so and so and auntie so and so. Sadly, that has got mixed up with language around sexual abuse now and become really strange in the way that we now refer to people, but it is something of older traditions, and I think that's probably a word that we're not using as much now, rituals and traditions. And I'm just thinking about something that was when you were talking about the way we do our perfect day and things like that, I'm just thinking of the hedonic calendar that Jamie Wheel shared,
Uh-huh.
when and I think I got that from Flow Genome. never mind. So there's this thing about where do you spread out your year so that you can have moments of utter bliss and communitas. Well, you can only have communitas when you have the community with which to have communitas with.
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. And you need to make the time. We need to care enough to make the time to make it happen.
yeah.
And make it possible. If we start with ourselves and we make it possible for the people around us, it will spread out, it will move
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
and 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 encompass more people. So I think it just, once again, it's just like with a lot of things. It starts at home, it starts with you making the shift for yourself,
Mhm.
and then it moves out as like a rippling in a pond. And I'm positive about it. I sometimes I feel real negative about where the world is right now, and I go, no, wait a minute. There is so much good going on. Let's just
Yeah.
focus on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I um I'm not to ignore that, not to say it's not important. It is important. And we still need to look at the positive things that are going on. And there are many, many right now, there are many older people doing amazing things.
Yeah.
And we need to bring them to the forefront, and we need to tap into them, and we need to cultivate them and nurture them, and make sure that it moves around. And um I mean, I when I was in Mexico, I was working with a lady who, she asked me for a lot of advice, and I didn't know how to give advice, but I did. But she was a knitter. She did knitting. And what she had in her mind is that she wanted to teach people in the smaller villages around where we lived. She wanted to teach the women how to knit things that they could sell and then make money. And so how could she do that, So we found people to donate yarn, and we found people to donate money, and we found villages that, and she found women to teach, and then those women would teach other women. And so just this simple woman from Wisconsin down in Mexico with her husband for a few months each year made a huge difference in other people's lives. Those
Yeah.
women then
Yeah.
could go on and teach other women in their village and so on. And she usually, within each village, there'd be 2 or 3 older women who would get it right away, and the others would flounder a little bit. So she would focus on them, and then they could then, with the language barrier and everything, they then could teach the others in a better way.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it was just so exciting to see, and it happened many, many times in when I was in Mexico, whether it was a spay neuter program for pets, or it was the knitting, or it was buying shoes for the kids so they could go to school, or whatever it was just a real awakening of how people could put what they knew to work to make other people's lives better. And I liked it a lot. It was really fun to work with them.
And isn't that just a beautiful model of again, I'm going to come back to that word wisdom. Isn't this what we do
Hmm.
with wisdom? We share it around like the yarn, I suppose. And whilst obviously I work as a trauma therapist and I talk about the thread of trauma passing down through generations, this is the other side. This is so much so the kind of positive psychology movement, never mind about Martin Seligman, that my hero at the moment is SBK in this space. And for those who don't know, this is Scott Barry Kaufman. And I was looking at something he put on Instagram the other day, which was a conversation that he had around trauma, but it was also about he was looking for adverse positive experiences because we're not talking about that. We tend to focus on the doom and gloom and the things that happen that are so bad. And this is what holds a community together. It's not competition, it's collaboration. And
Yeah.
collaboration comes with wisdom, and wisdom is shared and passed down. It's how we know how to do stuff. I'm kind of just thinking it's absolutely lovely this, Kathleen, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we were to create I don't know whether it's an online community or a spec, how would you do that in terms of what your business model might be, and how do people find you and your community for this? And I'm going to be talking here. Um, do we say the age of entry is above 45, above 50? Are you are you kind of putting an age rule, or are you saying everybody welcome all in one place?
Well, I think everybody is welcome because um, I think it will focus the mental shift will focus on people over 50 who are thinking about the rest of their lives. If somebody's 30, they might have a mom or a grandmother or an auntie who is in that age group, and but then they start thinking about it. They see some changes, and they see some things, or they see some words being used or whatever. So that's why I think it needs to be open to everybody. And because you never know. I mean, somebody said to me, you preach to the choir, but you leave the windows open, because you never know.
Brilliant.
And it's just so that's kind of how that's why I say yes, it's open. And it's a as far as reaching me right now, I think the best way to reach me is through my website. Or just it's simple. It's my name's Kathleen Sinclair. So it's to reach me, you just send me an email or at Kathleen at KathleenSinclair.com. That's the easiest way right
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
I have a lot of things I'm working on, and we haven't talked about tech, which we can do, but um, I'm writing children's books. I am for my I have two baby granddaughters who are just 1 year old, and I'm going to write a series of books with them in it. And I use um, um, I use tech for a lot of artwork and also writing and things like that. So I'm going to have a lot to share with people. I have a lot of quick start guides for all kinds of things, from gardening to cooking to traveling to whatever. And I, so I myself am trying to gather names of people. However, I am also wanting to build a database that would, where people would tell me, so I would know, I would have their name, where they live, what country they live in, what their skills are, what they feel their skills are, if they're an engineer, if they're a doctor, if they're a gardener, if they know how to weave, if they, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And then with the database of people, start putting groups together,
Yeah.
because if we all have tech, we can communicate with each other. And even in small villages, there's usually one member of the village, or there's a way that they can go and hook into some technology. And if not, and they would indicate that, then we would reach them in another way. We would figure out a way to reach them, and somebody close by, or go to their village, or go to their pueblo, or wherever it is. And so that's a goal of mine, is to create a huge database of these people, and
Mm.
and then figure out a way with the information that we have, how to get them together. And then also I talk about in the book that there are um, organizations that have a lot of money to give, if and there's a certain thing that they need solved. And
Mhm.
so they put out like a proposal for people to respond to, and those people get together and they solve the issue. And there's often lots and lots of money. So what we would do is connect those people with those projects, connect
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
people who could do the project with the project, and have it's just uh, it's a I don't know. I mean, it's beyond my ability to do it, but I am trying to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So still lots of growth, lots of potential, many years in front of you, Kathleen, because
exactly.
you've
Yeah,
got, what's the phrase? You've got shit to do.
I do. And the thing is that every day I wake up so excited about doing things. I've got so many things to do. I don't know what the word bored, being bored means, or being lonely. I don't, those are not in my vocabulary. I mean, I have experienced them in my life, but right
Mhm.
now where I am in my life, I don't feel them. And I know it's a big problem, at least in the United States, with older people feeling lonely and isolated and left out. And boy, would I like to just put the magic wand on that baby and get rid of it, because we need those
Yeah,
people. And
yeah.
it's a sad state of affairs when you find yourself in that position.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
mean,
okay with me.
there are statistics around loneliness is a bigger killer than any of the 4, issues that affect the body,
Yeah,
which I think are totally related to loneliness, but we're not doing that now. Right. So the question I have then is, how do those people who are lonely, I mean, whether they ever get to listen or watch a podcast like this might be that maybe that's what they do. They spend their time on YouTube, maybe they happen across a podcast. So what would you suggest then? This is Let's talk about the idea of tech. So I know when we initially started talking it was going to be you're never too old to use tech. Here's how Kathleen understands crypto, Amazon ads. Actually, that's by the by and out the window because I think what we've talked about is much more important at the minute. So what would you say to those people who are lonely? How do they connect with others? How do they reach out other than the standard Facebook group?
it's a it depends on where they are, I know that. Some people are rural and they don't have access to things like libraries and whatever. So it once again, you have to look at where am I
Mhm.
and where am I living? What connections do I have? What's close to me? What do I want to do? Do I want to be part of a reading group? Do I want to be part of a tech group? Do I want to be part of a dog group? What is it that would bring me into the the tribe that I would like to spend time with?
Mhm.
So, for example, I don't have pets right now, but I used to, when I had dogs, I'd go to a dog park. I very seldom knew the dog owner's name. I always knew the dog's name. That's Daisy's mom, or whatever. And so
Yeah.
it's you the connection doesn't mean that you need to be in their life, see them every day, and do whatever. Like you and I, we've never physically met, and yet we're
Mm.
very close. So
Yeah.
you have to, particularly for older people, it's not that they have to realize that, what does connection mean? Does that mean I meet people once a week at church? Does it mean I go to my book group? Does it mean I see my neighbor? So, and there are a lot of introverted people, and those people, it's really, really difficult for them to go out into groups of people. It's really
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
difficult. And to start a conversation and to invite someone to your home, oh my God, no, it's just they can't do it. So I would say that, like, we're having a Zoom call, and you can Google, if they know how to work a computer, they can Google ways to meet people over 60, or groups to talk. And there are dating groups, there are spiritual groups, there are
Mhm.
meetups where they have certain things, similar things that they're interested in. And so you have to you have to do a little bit of research, and you have to feel a little bit stupid, and you have to go ahead and ask Google. That's their everyone is a I think everyone should be able to reach Google some way
Or
if they have a
ChatGPT.
computer at all. And you just have to say, this is my zip code, 92615, or whatever it is in their country. Um, what's available, So my meetups, I'm in a rural area, so my closest meetups are about 40 minutes away, and I've gone to a few. I did women in business. Well, they were all like in their 30s. It was so sweet. They were so nice, but that was fine. I could meet them. And
Mm.
I'm older, and it was okay. And then there are just different things that you do. So if you have any kind of a hobby at all, you will have a group you can meet with. And a lot of people, I don't do church, so I'm not a church person, but for a lot of people, that is a way to make community. And so what's available to me? Maybe you don't like church, maybe you're an atheist, but maybe you go to that church to meet some people, talk to some people. And so you have to you even if you're an introvert, even if you're, don't think you have anything to offer, you have to be willing to make that first step. You have
Mm,
to care enough
mhm.
about yourself to make that first step and to reach out.
That should be on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to
So
care enough
it's
about yourself.
yeah, you do. And I know that that's a difficult thing, but truly I feel it's a privilege to be an older person. Not everyone gets to be an older person. They get sick, they get run over, they whatever, they get blown up. But so to me, I'm not going to take that lightly. And so if everyone who's alive, who's older says it's
Mm,
a privilege. I
mhm,
woke up
mhm.
today. What am I going to do with this wonderful life I have? What am I going to do? What can I do today to make my life a little bit better? And if it's pull weeds in your garden, whatever it is, just do one little thing. Just do one little thing. And then maybe the next week you do two little things. So, I mean, I know it's easy to spout this off, and I don't know anyone's life, and I don't know what they've been through, and I don't know if everyone they ever loved is dead, and they don't know what to do with themselves. And I mean, there's been suicide in my family too, and I don't get it, but it's a reality.
Yeah.
And so I know it's tough.
So that's why people like yourself being the guide are there for. I'm just thinking actually those people that we're talking about that might be lonely, might be in rural, secluded areas, distanced from people in lots of different ways, psychologically, physically. There is something about you can create your own group, but certainly you can find a way to connect with other people. And,
Yeah.
you're right. If there is something you are interested in, have a hobby on, maybe it's something you did as a child that you think, oh, I'd like to rekindle, I don't know, whatever it was, maybe not trampolining, maybe trampolining, because, who knows?
Yeah.
Let's not say that you can't go trampolining over the age of 50. So, or maybe actually, maybe you might need to wear tenor ladies, and if you think about that, because that's
Right.
just we've got to put the practicalities in here, Kathleen, haven't we? But there is something about it doesn't have to be you being by yourself, because look at what technology allowed. This is why I am so pro tech,
Yeah.
because this wasn't afforded to people in the 1950s. If you didn't
No.
have somebody's phone number and you didn't have public transport to leave your, I don't know, village and go to somewhere else, you were isolated and lonely. And you don't have to be in 2024.
Nope, you absolutely do not. I couldn't agree more. I make I mean, I can't tell you how many connections I have on my computer.
Mm,
Zoom calls and emails and so on. I'm connected to the entire freaking world. I'm connected. And it's pretty amazing. It's
it
just
is.
really
It is.
amazing. And also, I know I'm privileged because I speak English, but I will tell you, if there are many people who I speak to who English isn't their first language, and I am just so happy to. I don't care if there's a mistake or anything. It's just great because I can't speak Vietnamese. I can't speak these other languages, and they're trying really hard, and it really works. I like it very much.
Hmm.
So I also though I connect with people who are smarter than I am in the thing I want to learn. And
Yeah.
sometimes, yes, I have to spend a little money to take a course from them or to somehow get into their mentoring group or whatever, but it's worth it to me because that's where I learn a lot. That's where I learn, and that's what we've talked about when we took that writing course. You have to be saying, okay, well, what's really important to me now? And
Hmm.
maybe
Hmm.
financially, yes, you do have to put out a little bit. There are lots of things for free, though. There are lots of
Yeah.
things for
Yeah.
free. And so, it's, you know, maybe you can only go so far free, but you can start out free for sure. And then you can figure out, do I want to spend more money to do this and that? So whether it's like when we were talking about crypto, I didn't know anything about crypto. So I took some classes on crypto and I met some people and I learned more
Mhm,
about it
mhm.
and I invested in it and I did some things. So you just have to did I meet anybody when I first got into it? The only way you could trade Bitcoin was meeting somebody in the park, you know, and showing them your phone and giving them your code, and it was crazy. Well, it's not like that anymore. And so you just keep working with things that are new and different, and you don't, I'd say the other thing is, I think my biggest asset, if I were to say, well, what my biggest asset is, curiosity.
Yeah,
I'm curious about things enough that I want to learn more about it. And so try to develop a curiosity about something and don't just be blah and say, I don't care, or I don't know, or that's too hard, or, you know, focus in a little bit more. And then you're right. I mean, Google knows everything. And so you can just sit at your computer and learn a lot. You
yeah.
don't even have to communicate with anybody. And then you can communicate with people. And there are a lot of people out there just willing to talk to you or give you advice, and it's great. It's just great. So I wouldn't be, I mean, if I were to run out of the house with the fire burning, I'd grab my computer, I'd grab my Kindle, I'd grab the pets, and I'd be out in the street. I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't take rugs or pictures, or I got all my pictures on my phone. I mean, I would just take my electronics and I'd
Mhm,
go,
mhm.
and my life would be fine. So,
So what we're really saying, Kathleen, is tech is the most important thing in your life, really.
it really, for me right now in this rural, isolated area where
Yeah,
I am, I it is what connects me to the world, and that's how I feel. I
absolutely.
feel like I'm
Yeah,
connected to the world. I
yeah,
don't feel isolated. I don't feel a second-class citizen. I don't feel I'm missing out. I don't feel lonely. I don't feel depressed. I'm not bored. I don't know. So, and it's all because of tech. Yeah. It's
yeah.
just, I mean, you know, I think I told you this. I even read my books. I'm connected to the library. I read my books online. I don't have to physically go to the library anymore and check anything out. I can just read it right through an app. You know, it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I do all my artwork that way too. I do all my digital art. I used to have my
Ah,
paints, my paper, my water. I'd lug all this stuff around. Nope, nope. Now I do digital art. It's great.
wow.
Yeah, I know.
It I don't know where I go with that one in terms of I've never seen your digital art, Kathleen, and that's now like, okay, you've not said that before, so that's gonna when we catch up, like maybe next week or whatever, I'll be
I'll
like,
show you
where
some
is this
digital art.
digital? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, talking of the entire world and being connected to it, how can people connect to you? So we've got an email that they can reach out to you on. Do you have a website? Do you have somewhere that people can come and look for the downloads, a Facebook group, anything like that? And I will obviously put everything into the show notes.
Yes, I have a website. It's called KathleenSinclair.com, just simple. And and I'm on all the social media. I don't do anything on TikTok yet, but I'm thinking about it. But
Yet,
I'm there. I have a YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, which was once X. And what's the new one called? The new Facebook that isn't Twitter. What's it called? I'm
Meta,
there.
Meta.
Yeah. Yeah. No, not Meta. It's the Facebook group. It's not
Oh,
well,
so
anyway,
there's Threads, there's
yes.
Instagram, there's
Yeah,
yeah,
that's it. Yeah. So I do all of that now. I used to write every day, Kath, and I haven't written for a while because I wasn't reaching my group. And so I want you to know that I am starting a new Facebook group. And right now I have a really nice one. I like it very much, but it doesn't include men. It's called Kick-Ass Women Over 60 Who Want to Make a Difference. And but I really have found that there are a lot of men I talk to, and so yes, I'm a woman, but they just felt, well, yeah, but you see the same thing to men, so
hmm
I'm
hmm
not going to just do women.
yeah,
Um, and so it's a and once I get the email, I'm going to be and I have my group of people, then I'm going to be doing a newsletter, and I have a lot of giveaways, and I have a lot of ways to connect with people, and I will keep everyone abreast of this database that I'm doing and what's going on, and also I will introduce them to other people doing amazing things, older people, because
Yeah.
that's what I think needs to know. Well, they could do it. I can do it. Oh, that's a grandma. Oh, she does it. Oh, I get it. Oh, I didn't. I don't need to be this amazing person with a lot of resources and money. Oh, I can do that. So I think what it needs
Yeah.
to happen is we need to connect with each other and talk to each other more. So
Yeah.
I just need their name and their email, and I will not inundate people. Maybe once every 2 weeks, something like that,
Mhm.
and I will showcase people. If people want me to know about something they're doing, I will be happy to showcase people, promote them on social media, and so on. So that's where I
Perfect.
am with it. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for an enlightening conversation and a new nugget of piece of little gem that you dropped in at the end there, which has made me go, "Oh, that was something I didn't know about Kathleen." So, thank you so much for giving me your time.
Oh, thank you, dear, for having me. I really appreciate it. And thanks to your audience too. Thank you.